Hello and welcome. This is from the CBN. We bring to you weekly reports and expert analysis of the actions, policies and economic initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. I am Uliye Misidada. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, had in recent times reiterated that the country is in dire need of foreign exchange to meet various obligations. Crude oil export alone has proven to be an insufficient and unsustainable source, hence the necessity to support and develop the non-oil export sector, especially now that economies around the world are looking inward to solve their own challenges. The RT200 FX initiative is the CBN and the Bankers Committee's response to the challenge of forex shortage in Nigeria, and in keeping with one of the anchors of the program, the maiden edition of the biannual non-oil export summit held in Lagos on June the 16th. In this episode, we bring you more excerpts from the summit's panel discussions, where constraints to non-oil exports were identified and treated. But that's after this break. Stay tuned.
If someone calls or sends you a message that you have payment issues with your bank and requests that you reveal sensitive information, end the call and don't click. It might just be a scam. No bank will ever ask you for your personal identification number, PIN, mobile banking password, or your card verification code, CVC. Scammers always sound genuine, but don't fall for their bait. Don't respond to phony emails or SMS, and don't click on any dubious links. Even if the other party calls your date of birth or your BVN, don't give them your security details. If you suspect there's an issue with your account, the safest thing to do is go to your bank or call the number provided by your bank directly. Protect your bank details so no one steals your money. This message is from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN.
Welcome back. Lack of dedicated port terminals for non-oil exports, multiple agencies and bureaucracy at ports, lack of indigenous vessels which adds pressure to forex reserves, and inadequate storage facilities are some of the constraints limiting non-oil exports in Nigeria. Stakeholders at the recent CBN RT200 non-oil export summit discussed these issues and reached specific resolutions to tackle the challenges. Continuing from where we stopped the last time, here's the first set of panelists.
Yeah, so I just want to add, I think the problem with this so-called automation is that each of the stakeholders is working in silos. So the level of automation of Nigerian Ports Authority is not the same with that of customs or the shipping lines and so on and so forth. That's the first problem. The second problem is that when we all automate, will you be able to integrate the system? So what it simply means is we need to have one system, and that is the National Single Window. It's a project that has been on stream for over 15 years, and this government has tried to also get it on and implement it. There is a committee headed by the Vice President that has been trying to implement the National Single Window. And what is the National Single Window? It's a simple platform of interface where you exchange data, where you fill only one form. And that form is enough for Nigerian customs, Nigerian immigration, if they need anything, Standard Organization of Nigeria, and so on and so forth. It's also a platform where you make payment. And when you make that payment, whether you're an importer or an exporter, if you are paying 5 government agencies and you are supposed to pay a total of, say, 100,000 naira, you pay that 100,000 naira and the system automatically distributes the money to the relevant agency. Now, I'm pleading with the central bank governor that is sitting here and everyone to see this as a national project. It's really important. Smaller countries, neighboring countries have things like this. What we have done in Nigerian Ports Authority is to get the International Maritime Organization to consult for us. And we are implementing or deploying a port community system. The port community system is a platform that is not going to jettison the e-customs, is not throwing away what the shipping lines have, or immigration and so on. What we have done was to invite all the stakeholders to join us. And the first phase of it was through virtual meetings. And in that virtual meeting, we discussed and agreed on modalities for deployment of the port community system. And everybody is supposed to log into it. whether you're a shipping line, a freight forwarder, terminal operator, Nigerian Port Authority itself, the customs. And then it is a platform where you exchange data. The data becomes reliable, easily accessible, you can easily analyze it, and then you can make use of it. It now serves as a platform for the national port community, for the national single window. So I think unless we approach it from this angle, we are all going to be digitizing, deploying IT tools, but they are not in tandem, they are not working, they are not having handshake, and they are not integrated. So I think that is where the problem actually is.
You're absolutely right. It can only be as a result of the function of all the different participants in the ecosystem. So Nigerian Ports Authority, Ministry of Finance, the consumer, customs, etc., and we have an integrated approach. Now, because of what you do and the things that you've done, obviously, I think one of the things that we need to take away is that we can set up a team to basically create all of that. If certain things were achieved in the banking industry, as you know, all right, in terms of the interconnectivity of banks, in terms of BVN, in terms of all those things, this can be achieved as well, if you get the point I'm trying to make. Yeah. And all it just requires is for us to take representatives of all the different participants in that ecosystem and basically deal with it. But I know I'm running out of time, but let me ask, Mamuda Limited, Alaji, in terms of moving your products to the final destination points, are all the problems you have to confront, have we identified them? What do you think is the most significant?
In fact, actually, all what has been said here is precisely the problems. Is transportation from the hinterland to the port is a very, very serious issue. But I think if we can fast track the rail, the dry port will definitely be of great help. And in fact, now as at the moment, another crucial issue is the price of diesel. So even getting the vehicles to load your consignment down to the port is another problem. So we now resort to be exporting by air. Major now a lot of our products. Our intention is to make sure that before the end of this year, we reach $100 million level of exports. But we are really stagnant. We have a lot of containers, a lot of finished goods, which we had wanted to export. We couldn't access them. And also, another problem that we do have is policy implementation and somersaulting. You see, in the case of leather industry, you would have seen a lot of boost in the export of non-oil export from the leather sector. But unfortunately, since 1999, the federal government banned the exportation of wet blue chrome leather. This in up to today, 70% of Nigerian hides and skins is being exported raw and in wet blue form. And this thing is unrecorded because it's moving out through the border. So the remaining 25–30% of what we do have is the one that we are processing and exporting as finished leather. We have we have the capacity, we have the intellectuals know-how, we have our human resources that we can produce this leather to any level, but unfortunately, you cannot find the raw material.
Okay. One of the things we'll do, Alaji, is for each of the panelists, we're going to take your contributions, all right? Because I guess, and then start looking for a solution, your contributions in terms of how this problem can be solved, all right? And then create smaller panels or teams that will basically delve into it to make sure that they are resolved, part of which, like Mohamed Koko spoke about, and deal with it. But, Neroli, what are your issues? What is the greatest pain that you face in terms of the inspection agents, and how can we improve on it?
For the inspection part, we don't have issues with the exporters. But the main issues are what I've said here. Now, we are also located close to the ports, and I empathize with exporters. You can have your container standing on that Apapa road for a while, and at times there is theft. At times, the thing is perishable and they lose money.
Yeah.
But also, I want to speak to also the exporters in terms of the new trend now of theft. Now, you keep a container with value of 50 million naira, and you put a driver, you don't have his dossier, you can't trace him. You have transporters too that you cannot trace.
It's not their fault.
No, what I'm saying is that
It's what is available.
they need to, first of all, make sure that they always have good
Insurance.
Yes,
That
yes.
will pay.
And then they should ensure that the truck owners too
Yes.
are reliable, people they can reach out to in case there is a loss. Because now the issue of theft is increasing. And that's a serious problem for exporters. But also the infrastructure aspect is also very, very important. So many times I've seen containers fall along Apapa.
Yeah.
Now, if you are taking your container into Apapa through Ikodu Road towards Costain, and then after Costain, it's so bad that if you navigate there, you're not careful, the container falls. So we need to put those places. I don't know how much it will cost to just put a fix to that road, so that we will have a faster and better deal for this service situation.
We can never have the full solution, but we will start from somewhere. Mohamed Koko spoke about something interesting, which is a good plan. By the time we meet with the Governor of Central Bank, we will decide how that committee would work. Fortunately, because of his background and things he has done before, we can create a panel with him, if you get the point I'm trying to make on some of those initiatives, Mohamed, to see how we can get it done. But Bolaji, you are a banker. All of us here know some of the problems. Speak to us about what you think we can do to start solving them.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I think that the solution to driving exports in the medium term to long term is outside Lagos. And I want us to think about two things. We must start thinking about setting up a deep sea port outside Lagos. Outside Lagos, somewhere around Ondo State, that has access to all the bitumen, all the cocoa, all the products we want to export. It takes more than $1,000 to move products from outside Lagos to Lagos. It takes about 3 months to ship. A deep sea port outside Lagos combined with an economic zone, a special economic zone within the port will solve logistics. With a gas-powered structure, will solve power, will reduce cost, and that's the way to go. Now, as bankers, we are solving this issue the way we are solving power, buying individual generators. But if you set up a cluster, a special economic cluster, just 3 in Nigeria, and we fund it close to a deep sea port, all the producers will produce cheaply, we would have efficiency, we would create jobs. So what we have to do is just look at what happened in Morocco, Tanga Economic Free Zone, in Egypt, Alexandria Free Trade Zone, in Ethiopia, Kawasawa Free Trade Zone, all close to the ports. So I think we should adopt the concept of shared services like we did in banking and apply it to this real export challenge, but not as individual solutions, but as a cluster. And we'll solve this problem within a 5-year problem. But telling us all to do individual lending and support, we're not going to make a lot of progress in the long term.
Actually, Nigerian Ports Authority, working with the Federal Ministry of Transportation and some investors, have identified a location in Bonny, and it has a natural draft of 17.5 meters. The OBC has already been approved. The FBC was approved by FEC, but we are amending it for some reasons, and then that approval will probably be given to us by July. So it means that you now have a deep sea port outside Lagos, which will further reduce the pressure in Lagos. Now, as relates to the issues of the trucks, what we have done in the past 3 months or so was to issue licenses for export processing terminals. There are 10 of them, both in Lagos, Ondo, and Ogun State. And the reason here was to resolve these issues of packaging, quality control, approvals, and certification of export products, especially agricultural products. Yeah. And they have actually, 2 of them have reached out to Central Bank, and one of them was supported by the central bank because they must have the way bridge. The Nigerian customs needs to be there. We've written to customs pleading that they must set up their export desks at those locations.
We've read, we didn't say so, we have not said so here at this meeting. We've read about people who want to export goods out of Nigeria, queuing for months or for weeks or months before their goods can go out. Because time is against us. In the short run, what can NPA and customs do for the exporters? Whether you want to create some sort of dedicated route where they can easily export their goods. Short run. We need those export proceeds badly.
Up until a few years ago, Nigeria produced far less than it consumed, spending up to $22 billion annually on importation. Then came the import policy by the federal government. Now, to survive, the nation must learn to be self-sufficient. And so far, we are on the verge of achieving this through the intervention of the Central Bank of Nigeria and other stakeholders in support of local farmers and efforts of value chain entrepreneurs. Now, the goal of creating 10 million jobs in 5 years through 10 commodities is gradually being actualized. Let's buy Nigerian to grow Nigeria.
Thanks for staying tuned. You're watching From the CBN, a weekly program that brings to you reports and expert analysis of the actions, policies, and economic initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. Still on the recent RT200 Non-Oil Export Summit, the second panel discussion focused on bridging the finance gap and effects of the CBN economic intervention initiatives to boost non-oil exports in Nigeria.
I will start with the MD of Nexim, and we'll put you on the spot here because export finance facilitation is rests squarely with you. What do you think will be the major impediment to us achieving the $200 billion that the governor has set, and what progress over time have you done?
Export has been crowded out of financing from normal financial sector because the risks are high. Some of the things that have been mentioned in logistics, in transportation, in port congestion, in power, and so on and so forth, are those that stopping financing to go into export. So how are we going to, interventions are supposed to be catalysts for the industry to pick up. We have to de-risk, one. We have to provide alternative funding. And when I say alternative funding in as regards export, now I'm talking of things like factoring. Global trade is done majorly on factoring now. 80% of global trade is done on factoring. And that is a natural funding, especially for SMEs that can refinance themselves and keep the cycle going on and on and on. So for us, the interventions are good. Somewhere like 2 trillion naira has already gone into export or export-related investments from the central bank. But it is going to be grossly inadequate to support the race to $200 billion in 3 to 5 years. We have to look for alternatives.
The central bank already has about 3 key export interventions. And of the 1.3 trillion that has been made available between the EDF, the NESF, and the EFI, only about 220 billion has been accessed. So MD Fidelity, what exactly is going on? What are the exporters saying? Why are these applications not coming to the central bank?
The agricultural value chain supports what the exporter will ask for at the end of the day. And I would like to put this in 3 buckets. One will be the crop production. Second will be storage. I would like to take it in the order that I have witnessed. That will be storage. Then, of course, the value addition, and then the export opportunities, and of course, the infrastructure around it. Because the exporter will not come to ask for facilities if he does not have the support of all this value chain that I'm speaking to. So what we have noticed is that the exporters themselves are struggling because the primary crops themselves are coming at very high rates these days because the availability is not really there for all the various lines. Yes, there's a marked improvement on rice, but we also have cocoa. We also have sesame seeds. We also have cashew nuts. And what we've noticed is that the plantations are aging. So we have to go back to the fundamentals, which is to start to also finance the crop production. When we do that, what this does is that it makes the crops to come to the exporters at a reasonable rate that makes it reasonable, that makes sense for them to even export to the orders that they have, because they do have orders. They do have orders. So to meet up with those orders, a couple of times we ask them, why are you not exporting? They're saying that the pricing in Nigeria is no longer favorable for what the income is going to be, the yield is going to be. Okay, so they have them back up on those. So what RT 200 has done, which is very commendable, is that it's going to solve most of these problems that we have identified. So because the funds are coming out much cheaper, the tenure is right, the funding price is right, we can have the audacity as a bank to have people go into crop production, because nobody can go into crop production with commercial rate. Okay, that's one. Then on the issue of the value addition, thanks to the RT 200, we have actually deployed. We have a presence in all the political zones of Nigeria, physical presence, as that we have a desk there. So everybody is being encouraged to backwardly integrate, to ensure that they put the machinery in place to add value, because the exporters now can, if they add value, get 3 times the revenue on the cash product that they were exporting before now. Then export now makes sense. Okay, so the value addition will go a long way to solve this problem. I'm sure you're going to see very soon, because of course we have to do all our documentation and get it right. You see a lot of applications coming in for machinery.
Thank you very much, MD Fidelity. We'll now move on to WACOT. You've benefited from some of the interventions of the central bank, especially those that are export focused. We want you to share your experience, and you have a couple of DFIs and the deposit money banks here. As we race to $200 billion, what are the suggestions and what has been your experience over time, utilizing the interventions of the central bank, and what has the effect been on the business of WACOT?
This is where RT 200 has helped and is going to help further strongly. But here, while we commend the ongoing RT 200 activities and the support and the incentive that it's going to give, the 3 points that we would like to stress here. One is, we're very thankful for the interest subsidy in the working capital that is provided, and we would urge and request the CBN and the commercial banks to continue with that and extend it. Second is a clear block-wise or a bilateral agreement in getting us concessions in our destination markets. For example, sesame in China attracts a duty from us, but from us in Nigeria, but definitely not from the LDCs. So can we humbly request the government, the CBN, to engage bilaterally to support those areas. These are policy supports basically. And the third part, while we are continuing to export agri-products, by and large the world is increasingly moving towards healthy food products, and the origination of that lies in sustainable, for example in sustainable cocoa, in let's say organic sesame, and both of us, both the products we engage, and I'm sure our fraternity of exporters in agri-business also engage in. Now, can we request that the RT 200 facility be extended to these category of products as well, which are definitely not processed, but they come with a specialized definition of certification globally, be it our Rainforest Alliance or be it any kind of certification which is given, for example, to organic sesame or sustainable cocoa. And hence, these are very high value products and very differentiated and could go a long way in augmenting and boosting exports from Nigeria.
The global financial market is today in very serious turmoil. Pricing issues are big issues, and but we will try to see what can be done to encourage the exporters to do the business, provide the necessary enablement, provide the necessary funding at reasonable pricing that will encourage them to repatriate those dollars back to the country for the benefit of our customers that are also importing, so we can meet our import obligations.
That's all from the CBN this week. Do get your resolved banking issues across to the CBN Consumer Protection Department using the email address cpd@cbn.gov.ng. Attach relevant documents. Call the CBN Contact Center on the phone line +234 2255 226. Local call rates may apply. Send your inquiries and comments to the dedicated email address from the cbn@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter for updates and to watch uploaded episodes of the program. We invite you to join us again next time. I'm William Isidada. Stay safe and bye for now.